You are going to love this training today, guys. Today I'm going to be breaking down the difference between acting upon logic versus intuition. I've usually always lived my life from a stoic approach, especially ever since I've been in business. So I've been in business for about 6 years now, and I've kind of acted on my business and my life in a stoic way. What I mean by stoic way is logic, grit, discipline, that focus. But for the last 6 months, I've been more so focused on the spiritual side, the intuitive side, the flow side. And I'm going to share with you guys today the science behind intuition, the science behind logic, how we function. I'll add in a spiritual aspect to it as well, as we like to connect both. And then I'm going to share with you my personal experience. Let's dive in. All right, guys. So the focus today, intuition versus logic. We want to find out what is better to function and live off of, right? Do we live off our intuition or we go off of our logic? Now, I would say most of society, most people, if you brought up the traditional normal way, you're probably living your life based off logic, right? This is what I should do. This is what makes sense. This is what the science shows. That's kind of how most of us live our lives. So today what we're going to go over is the science behind both of them. We're going to go over how the brain works. We'll tie that in. We'll go over my own personal 6 month journey and some ending notes as well. Now, what I would love to see from you today is because I want to see your personal opinion as well. Have you ever done this before in your life? How do you continue to live your life? What works best for you personally? I would love to hear that in the comments below. So, first and foremost, guys, is the science behind intuition. The science behind intuition, first of all, what is it? Is you want to think of your intuition as the number one best pattern recognition processor, okay? Your intuition is the best at pattern recognition. Typically it uses past experiences, emotions, all these things to try to predict outcomes. So this is a science behind intuition. So think of it, for example, like your nervous system. Your nervous system has, I think it's like 100 million neurons. Like there's so many connections flowing in throughout you. And it has all these connections. Like, for example, the gut feeling that you get, what that is actually neurochemical and electrical signaling from the body to guide perception. Okay, so when you get that gut feeling, right, it's actually just a signal, a process happening internally, that intuition's happening internally. The processes are all happening in your body to help guide your perception. Very, very interesting stuff. So, the cool thing about this when it comes to the nervous system as well is that when we are in flow, when we are in safety mode, we're functioning properly, everything's going good, we have more clarity, we can have more creative thinking. Now, the inspiration behind this training today actually came from just my own personal experience, my own, journey of what I've been doing, me studying spirituality very deeply and manifesting in the past 12 months around following that inner guidance system, following your emotions, and then also just watching a few podcasts of someone who is very, very smart, who studies the quantum field and physics and all this stuff, and how he lives his life off that. And then also another guy, Rick Rubin, on Joe Rogan podcast was talking about how he kind of just follows his passions and his emotions, and it's all kind of tied into following that intuition, right? So when we think of intuition, we think of like following that inner guidance system, following that nudge, following that pull, right? What science tells us is that intuition is just basically your inner pattern recognition system that kind of gives you those nudges and pulls on how to make decisions and what to do based off of patterns, right? Based off what the inner self is seeing of what's going on. That's what science says. So, other things that science says as well is, again, we all know this by now. I mean, most of us know this, is that 95% of our processing power is the subconscious mind, right? We're only about conscious about 5% of the time in our lives. Everything else, we're usually just in the subconscious mind, relying on patterns, our habits, our beliefs, our traumas, all those things is stored in that sub-C. Okay. And this is, think of it as stored data, right? Again, emotions, beliefs, trauma, etc. And your intuition can pull from that, right? This is kind of a process, a program that's been playing throughout your entire life since you're about 7 years old. Because at the age of seven, or before the age of seven, you have mirroring neurons. You're just a sponge absorbing everything until you create some sort of sense of self, some sort of structured beliefs about the world, fears about how things work in the world, beliefs about yourself, your worth, your how good you are, all these things that was programmed into you. I say programmed because when you're a little baby, you were just a baby. You're literally like a dog. You were in the present moment. You're following that natural intuition, that natural guidance system, right? You needed love. You would cry. You would go get attention. You would figure out how to get food. You'd figure out how to get the attention, how to get the help, like all these things. But as we grow and we develop, right, we build a subconscious mind. And think of this as basically this prison that was built around you to keep you safe and secure in your life and to have some sort of sense of control on everything. Okay. The brain's like, I don't want to have to be thinking about all these things. Let's just make it a habit. Let's just make it an unconscious process, an unconscious pattern that will just keep going over and over again, a program. So we can nudge and we can pull, our intuition can, from that subconscious as well. So again, intuition, the science says, is the natural guidance system from experience and patterns. But if you've been watching my stuff for a while, you know that we're not just going to go based off science. We're also going to add in the spiritual mix as well. So the spiritual look at intuition is that your intuition is your higher mind. Okay, so if you study spirituality, what you recognize is that there's what we call the lizard brain. In science, we call it the animal brain, logic, whatever it may be. There is your animal self, and then there's your higher self. And intuition is where you're acting upon the higher mind, the higher consciousness, the higher awareness, the part of you that sees the bigger picture. Okay, the part of you that's tapped into soul and source, who already knows kind of the path forward. Because in spirituality, if we look at how it works, right, is that there is no time and space. Everything is here and now and all connected. So your higher mind kind of has the path. It already knows the steps. It knows what's needed. You just kind of got to get out of your own way and follow that intuition, follow that passion. And that ties into the law of attraction, right? Because law of attraction talks about how if you want to manifest your dreams and accomplish what you want, you have to change your personal frequency to attract what it is that you want, right? So like attracts like. So you need to think and feel as that self now and be it, and therefore you will become it. You will act that way, you will get the results that way, and eventually you will have it. Right. And so that's kind of the idea around law of attraction. So think of it like this. If you look down below here at this little picture, think of this as like, okay, we are all consciousness, right? And we are all that is. And inside of consciousness, let's say, is you and your personal experience, and you have your goal that it is that you want to accomplish. And the higher mind is up here. The higher mind can see it all, right? So the higher mind will give you those nudges and pulls because your intuition speaks in emotion in nudges, right? This is why when you'll see the synchronicities, right? And a synchronicity is basically just your brain is looking for information to help you to reaffirm what it is that you want or what you're going for. So when you see like the numbers and the patterns, spiritual side of things says that that means that you were in the right frequency, the right vibration at that time to attract that synchronicity. And also science ties in about how your brain's filtering that in, it's focusing it for, it's looking for it to give it evidence to keep going for what it is that you want. So the intuitive side, when it comes to spirituality, is trusting in those inner poles, right? You want to think of it like this, as you are not the human body. You are a spirit having a human experience. And your body, your brain is the antenna. And your consciousness, your actual real self, your soul is sending information and bits to that antenna, and you're picking it up. And then you can act and go off of it. Right. So for example, like you ever like just be in the moment, you're in that flow zone. Either if you're going for a walk, you're playing with your kids, your dog, you're just doing what you absolutely love. And then like an amazing opportunity comes up or an idea comes up and you feel so good about it. You feel so in flow, and that can just change so much in your life. That's where we're diving into that intuition, right? Because again, law of attraction. Okay. So the goal I want feels free. Okay, so you practice feeling free now. And the more and more you stay in that state of being free and feeling free, and you just follow those next nudges and those next pulls that are going to make you feel more free and feel more good. And as you follow those pulls, that unknown path is going to get you to where you want to be faster than if you have the logic brain of like predictable outcomes. The math doesn't add up here. The statistics don't add up, so I'm not going to go for it. right? The intuition, the spiritual side says, follow that unknown, follow that path, experience more of yourself in the unknown. Okay, so that's how intuition works when we look at the spiritual side, is more so in the quantum field, off energy, vibration, and frequency. Okay, so now that we have a good idea of the intuition. So, and again, how I would speak it in my terms is basically your intuition, again, is the higher mind giving you information, nudges, and pulls to get you towards what you want. And your logic and your animal brain will get in the way by overthinking, by wanting safety, by wanting control, by thinking it has all the answers. But what we got to understand is that the logic brain wasn't designed for that. The animal brain wasn't designed for that. The intuition is designed for pattern recognition, okay? And to help you figure out those next steps. The logic brain isn't really made for that. Let's dive into the next piece, the logic brain. So the logic brain, also called the animal brain. Okay, logic brain uses logic, right? We always want to use logic in science, numbers, math, predictability. We act based off what we should do and not what we genuinely want to do. For example, I want to go chase this dream. I want to go travel around the world. I want to travel to this place. But then it's like your parents and your conditioning and society is like, no, you got to go to school and you got to go do these things. And it's like my heart and my intuition is pulling me this way, but everyone else is pulling me this way. So I think I should probably just go this way. I should follow the herd. All right, right? That's what happens a lot of the time when we follow that logic brain only, is we do what we should do rather than what we genuinely want to do, what our heart and soul is pulling us to do. Okay. And this is all because we play, again, it's all about control. It's all about predictable outcomes, and it's all has to be calculated so we can act off safety, security, and predictability. Because the logic, okay, what does the logic want? The logic wants safety. Okay, the brain wants predictability. Predictability means safe and secure, right? If I keep doing the same thing, I know I'll stay alive. So the logic is a product of your PFC, your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is, think of it like the mental CEO. Okay, it's in charge of the reasoning, the planning, and the decisions that you make. So that is what logic is. So think of it as this. It uses linear thinking. Okay, it uses linear thinking, which means it wants to use words, numbers, sequences. It wants data. Okay, it wants data. It can hold on to all these bits of information at once to help kind of make an informed decision. So basically, it's like your intuition already has the pull and the nudge. Your logic just makes sense of it, right? Your logic side's like making sense of it, calculating it all, seeing if it truly is the right thing moving forwards. All right, so it's like, think of logic as like that little buffer before you take action on intuition. So logic helps using, again, evidence and reasoning. Logic is conscious, which means you have to consciously use it, right? We can go in our subconscious mind, or we can be conscious, right? And when you use your logic, you have to be conscious. You have to really sit there and think things out. Logic is, again, science, specifics, and controlled. So that's the idea around using the animal brain, the logic brain. Okay, it's coming from a place of safe and security. It wants predictable outcomes. It tries to reason things, statistics, all those things there. And it's coming from a place of safety and security. But as we know, guys, when it comes to chasing a dream, when it comes to chasing a dream, right? And when it comes to changing your life, we all know this, that when it does come to doing this, you can't always predict things. You're going to have to step into the unknown. One of the most famous quotes about building a business, for example, if you're someone who wants to build a business or a dream or a charity, whatever it may be, one of the major sayings is that you're basically jumping off a cliff and you have to figure out how to build the airplane on the way down, how to build the parachute on the way down. You're taking a leap of faith. And another thing too, guys, is if you look at it, if we always use a logical mind, statistics are terrible. Like 90% of plus of people always fail. New Year's resolutions, businesses, weight loss goals, all these things. So if you're always using logic, you're never going to try to change. You're never going to go for those things because it'll be like, well, logically, it's just not going to work out. I've tried many times in the past before. All these people are failing. This is what I see in the world. I'm not going to do it. But if we can understand that how we were kind of designed over all these years and years and years of passed down programming, so much of it is fear. So much programming that we get as a child growing up in this world is based off you got to focus on survival, not thriving. And I'll tell you right now, I'll never grow up my kids in a world to just survive. I will grow up my kids to make sure that they are thriving, they're chasing their dreams, they're living a life of experience. That's what life really is. You're not meant to just get here, just try to control as much as possible, and then just stay in this bubble and stay safe until you die. I mean, you can if you want, but is that really exciting? So, again, here's my 6 month experience on what's been going on in my life ever since I've been having or I've been following this new guidance system. So my 6 month experience. So first and foremost, here's what I want to say, guys, is again, I've always built my business and lived my life the Stoic way. Stoic way is in very disciplined. Like if you you should have saw my life before. I was by the book. I was every number was on track, super, super strict with my schedule, super strict on these are all the things that I should do. I have to go do. I have to do all these specific things, work it every day, eat at these times, force these foods. I have to do these things for my work. I have to follow these processes that my coaches, what I've been learning, what I think I should do because everyone else is doing. That's how I live my life. And I will say this, I've accomplished a good amount of success from that stoic way. I will say that 100%. Like if you want to keep living your life off of logic, you can succeed at high levels. You can make amazing things happen in your life. You can do a lot of good and you can still overall be, we'll say pretty happy. But in the past 6 months, I've switched it up. Okay, the past 6 months, over the past year or so, I've been really diving into spirituality, really getting more clear on my actual dream, how to help people live their dreams, how to help people level up at the highest levels, how to help people heal. And in these studies and practices, this is a part of the journey that's come up. It is me following my own inner guidance system, going all in on the spiritual aspect of following that pull, following that dream. And for me, guys, what that meant was taking a massive step back in my own company, really repainting the big picture, changing things up in a way that's aligned with me, my heart, my soul, and making a lot of changes in my life. And I would say 2025 was not the year expected, but it was pretty unbelievable year, that's for sure. And here's what happened. So 6 months of following my inner guidance in system. I would say I followed it about 85% of the time, 80% of the time, because anybody who knows what I'm talking about, when you try to follow this guidance system, you're going to go through a lot of stuff. Okay. And what I mean by that is that you're going to have past programs pop up. So, what I mean by this is that, for example, I grew up in where I had money beliefs that money was very stressful to make. Okay, money's very overwhelming. If you know about your belief systems will always find a way to come true. They always support you. So I would work on average about 12 hours a day for the first probably 5-ish years of my business growth. And I would always find a way to be stressed and making money, overwhelmed and making money. That was my pattern. That was my process, right? That was my logical brain in control based off past programs and processes. That's how it always be. When I started to not follow the logic and what I should do, and I followed my inner guidance system, I listened to my actual emotions. I listened to what I genuinely wanted to do. I trusted in myself, my soul, that I could get myself to where I want to be and I wouldn't fall apart. I wouldn't give into vices because this is a big thing is like I grew up, in listening, and I'm sure a lot of you listen too, of like, F your feelings, F your emotions. Your emotions don't matter. Go, put your head down, work your guts out. Like that is the path to go. That's how I was always brought up as well. It's hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, right? It was never about follow your passion and heart, follow your love and joy. It was never really about that. So when I stopped doing that, and I started focusing every day before I start my day, get myself in the highest state of being, practicing the manifestation, the method, how to do it all. And I just listened to that inner guide system. I followed that flow. What happened is that I would follow this flow, but these old programs, this old animal brain would be so scared, guys, to the point where I couldn't think straight. My mind was running 1,000 miles per hour. I was in the sympathetic state with my nervous system, fight or flight, nonstop. Every morning I'd wake up so terrified I could barely eat. What else happened? I would just be feeling so numb, so lost. I got very, very depressed at first. And it's all because this animal self, this old programs was screaming at me to come back to safety and security, go back to the old ways. It was trying to pull me back so hard. But I kept going. I just kept following my intuition. I kept following my guidance. And here's one thing is that I've never felt more alive in my life. Because when you're in that unknown, when you put yourself in that unknown, you're just following off that intuition, you're following off that inner guidance system, your soul, you're completely in the unknown of life. And when you're in the unknown, you have to be aware because your brain wants you to survive and stay alive, right? So you're hyper aware. You're hyper aware. You're not in the unconscious. You're hyper aware because everything is new. So many changes are happening. So much new experiences are happening. So many new ways of being. You're interrupting your patterns nonstop because you're not following the should do schedule. You're following the inner self. So I felt more alive than ever in these past 6 months of my life. So alive, so in tune with myself. And it's been amazing. The next thing is past programs fell apart. So old past beliefs, insecurities, beliefs around money, functioning, work, all these things have completely fallen apart. What also fell apart is my old belief systems and what I think I should have done and what I thought that I actually wanted in my life and what I wanted to create. And I realized that so many of it was fabricated. It wasn't actually genuine. It wasn't actually me, my authentic self. So many of these past programs have gone apart. And anybody knows anything about the ego and your sense of self is that the ego hates this. And this is where depression can come in because you kind of lose your sense of self. You go up in the clouds a little bit because throughout my whole life before, I've had this structure, this sense of myself, who I was, my identity, how I function in the world, about me, the hard worker, all these things. All this stuff about myself, guys, disappeared. I lost it all. So in the process, I lost myself as well. And this is where I fell into that depression and I was just up in the clouds. Like I thought I was literally losing my mind. But again, it was that old animal brain just screaming for safety and security, trying to drag me back. But I kept going. I kept going. And here's the thing through the chaos, I found clarity. Through the chaos, I found the most peace ever. Through the chaos, I found the most absolute trust. Through the chaos, in the stress, in the struggle, I found this deeper connection with the universe in the world like no other before. My trust is unbelievable. People think, like so many people think I'm just absolutely delusional, that I live in dreamland. And to them, I do. But it's just because I have so much unbelievable trust in the universe, in me being a creator, in myself, in source, that everything is working out exactly for me and where I need to be. Everything is happening here and now. It's all experience. And I'm gaining more and more of it. I'm becoming more and more of myself. And even though I can't necessarily control the next steps and I don't know exactly how everything's going to work out, I know. It's not I believe, it's not I think, it's I know. I genuinely feel it. I be it right now. I know. It's only a matter of time until all the dreams that I want are going to show up right here. So it's this crazy, insane amount of trust and trust in myself and the universe. And that feels so good. It feels so good. And that ties into the next thing is peace and love. I feel a sense of unconditional love. I feel a sense of peace in a way. Before I was suffering, and it's because I was holding on to what wasn't mine. I was holding on to control. I was holding on to, I couldn't trust in the way things worked out. One of the main themes in my life has always been trust issues, not trusting in people, getting cheated on, not being able to trust partners, being super insecure about it, not being able to trust in the way things work out, and always feeling a sense of control. That's gone. That's gone. Completely let that all go. So in turn, there's so much peace, so much inner love, so much inner acceptance. And it's been a game changer. The next is flow over grit. Okay. And a lot of people were like, are you sure you should do this? Like, what if you fall out of shape? You're talking about following your flow and your feelings, your emotions. Like, what if you just hang around the whole time and do nothing? You just play video games and you stop doing this stuff. Listen, anybody knows this stuff knows that that's not going to happen. Okay. Because it's not actually your excitement. When you do those things, drugs and stuff like that, like, yeah, maybe there's a time and place for it here and there and whatnot. But like, when you're consistently doing that and it's not what you should be doing, it's not aligned with the life that you want to create, it's not going to feel exciting. Okay. It's going to feel anxious. It's going to feel bad. It's not going to feel good. So this is where again, you have to really have trust in yourself. okay, and following that inner guidance system. But here's what I also recognize is that maybe you will dip into that, but you'll dip into it only for a little bit until you bounce back. Okay, you'll learn what you need to learn in that period, and then you'll come back with more experience to build what it is that you actually want to get on the right track again. But when I got in this flow, guys, here's the thing. I still work out basically every single day, but now it's not coming from a place of I should do this. I should go work my guts out and not listen to my body if it needs rest. Now I listen to my body. I respect my body. I eat when I need to eat. I eat on time. I have a good structure for it. I eat foods that I genuinely want to eat. And guess what? I've gotten in better shape. My shape has only gotten better. I only feel stronger and more energized. There was a period where it kind of fell off a little bit in my depression and I was eating poorly and I wasn't eating as good, just trying to keep myself together. But now it's thriving. Now everything happens so perfectly. If I need a rest day, I take a rest day. If not, I go move my body every single day, but I do it on my time. I do it when the pole calls me to do it. I listen to my energy and it feels so perfectly aligned. It feels so good. So some of you might be watching this right now, like, gosh, I wish I could be that way. Right. And here's what I will say is that, like, there is a way to it because, 9, 10 years ago, before I worked out, I hated it. I thought people who worked out were stupid. I was like, who in the right mind would go to a gym and lift iron for an hour or 2 hours and sweat? Like, that's a waste of time. I'd rather go play video games and watch TV. That's way more fun. My mind was completely different, guys. So if this is the position you're in, I'm telling you, you can 100% change it. And now to the point where working out is one of my favorite parts of the day. Okay, it's an expression of self-love. It's like I can't wait to go work on myself and feel better. This is like a God-given gift where I get to go to this gym, I get to move my body, and I get to actually genuinely feel better, look better, become better. Wow. The only hard part I think about that itself is the mind battle. Worrying about what other people think, comparing yourself, all that crap that we don't need to do. Next is synchronicities and magic. So, I love the quote, do you decide to live in a magical world or a scarcity world? I decide to live in a magical world. And I'll tell you this, when I follow these synchronicities and whatnot, magic showed up in my life. When things fell apart, things came into my life that supported me on an unbelievable level. Doors opened up for new possibilities and new outcomes at an unbelievable level. Things that other people might have been struggling with, or maybe there was someone who was in my life who wasn't meant to be in my life, naturally they fell out. Naturally they left. Naturally things came together. It worked out perfectly. So this is where I let go. I surrendered. But when you do that, when you let go of control, you actually gain so much more control. You let the higher mind take control. You let the synchronicities guide you. You let it all kind of, you really embody that law of attraction method. And again, synchronicities are crazy. I see synchronicities nonstop all day long, multiple times. It's like expected now. And magic too. Magic as in just like things happening in my life, like just popping up in my life, working out for me in beautiful ways. I'm just so grateful for. I appreciate so much. Next is expansion. Expansion, guys, in many ways. I myself, I feel like I'm so much more aware, so much more conscious, so much more developed. I feel like my spiritual self, my overall personal frequency, how I am in this world. I just feel like I'm 100 times better as a person, as a soul, and just also with expansion as well as the knowledge. The amount of downloads I've gotten in knowledge on how the human brain works, how to help people heal themselves, transform themselves, face themselves. Like, because for me, it's like, I had this massive dump of all this crap I had to deal with, all these programs, this depression, this sadness, this fear and stuff that I quickly worked through, and I learned how to rewire my mind and all this stuff. And now I'm taking that and I'm helping my clients with it, and the results they're getting is unbelievable. They're changing so rapidly and getting better and feeling so much better. It's so beautiful. Next is discipline just flows. Like discipline is just natural. I respect my inner clock. I sleep and I wake around the same times. I get a good 7.5 hour, 8 hours sleep. I work out almost every day. I eat 2 big meals a day. I fast for the most part in the morning. Everything overall is pretty good. And if there's something that I don't like it gets fixed. I don't worry about it because I know it's going to fall into place. I know that the fear, the crap that I need to get through is going to pop up, and I get to objectively look at it and not react to it. And I get to work through it to get back into that flow. So overall, so many things have changed in my life, guys. So many things. And here's what I will say, because now you're asking, will I keep going? right? Will I keep going in this path? And here's what I'll say is that knowing what I know now and with just studying neuroscience and the quantum field and creation, manifesting, being a spiritual guy myself, and my own life experience, I will say this is that I will keep following my intuition. I will keep following I call it my soul. I will keep following that. I will keep following that to the day I die. And we'll say it'll be like this. 85 to 90%, I will follow that. The other little bit will be logic. So most of my life, how I function and be will continue to be that way off intuition. And then I'll also keep the logic there as well. Okay, for 10 to 20%. And that's how I'm going to keep going because it's just been unbelievable the benefits, the peace, the mind clarity, the expansion of myself, the stuff I've been learning, the down all the stuff. It's just been unbelievable. And overall, I'm so grateful for it all. Even though I've hit my lowest lows, I've also have never felt so much better without needing anything externally. So it makes me so excited because when the external world starts to change, as I've made the changes, I'm just so excited for what's to come because I already feel that good that I don't need it externally. So yes, I will keep going. And I'm excited to keep you guys updated as I do keep going. But that is the training for today, guys, on the logic versus intuition, my personal experience, how it works now. I want to hear from you guys. Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this? How do you live your life? And other than that, I really appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe if you really benefit off this. And I'll see you on the next training.